Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the virtual Cobalt Cafe. My name is Rick Lupert. You are here on week number 243 of our virtual series. Great to have you all here with us to participate in our open reading and to hear our featured reader, Jacqueline Allen Trimble. Jacqueline, really glad that you're here with us. Looking forward to your reading. It's going to be great. So if you would like to participate in the open reading, all you need to do is send me a message in the chat and I will be happy to add you to the list. If you have already done that, or once you've done that, either way, once that's done, you have the opportunity to read up to 2 poems. That's our maximum, 2 poems. And the suggested time limit is less is more. Really think about how long you're spending at the open mic. If you're doing a really long piece, maybe don't do a second piece. Consider if the long piece is too long. I don't know. I'm going to leave the sensibility up to you, but again, the suggested time limit is less is more. We, of course, have a 1-drink minimum here at the Cobalt Cafe, so make sure that you have a beverage with you of some kind. If you didn't know about that, you could just have a beverage later in our honor. I suppose that's fine too. No problem. We're easy. Finally, make sure you have the chat room open. The chat room is where you can interact with each other since we have everyone muted out of an abundance of caution in consideration of everyone's safety, and so no one's eyes start to bleed when crazy Zoom bombers come along and show us things that we don't necessarily want to see, or at least admit to want to seeing in a public forum like this. So there you go. That is everything I have to tell you. Our first open reader, who we'll get to in a second, will be Sean Mahoney. Before we get to Sean, I'd like to ask if there are any questions. Martin, yes.
Hello, Rick. I was just wondering, have you ever yourself made a mixtape?
Oh, yes, definitely. I was a child of the 80s, a teenager of the 80s, as well as a tween of the 80s, and that was high mixtape season. So, yeah, and I can even almost tell you, like, I know my friends and I had like a mixtape that we made, which was the like definitive, these are the best songs that exist, period, tape that we had. Yeah, absolutely.
I think my dad was a little ahead of his time having a tape player back in the late 70s, so that's when I got addicted to it.
Very good. Yeah, I'm still like trying to wrap my head around you can just make playlists on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, and if you want, and it's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, I remember staring at my radio and wishing I could do that, and now it's here. So,
yeah. All right, cool, good question, Martin. Got me feeling nostalgic. Jackie, looks like you have a question.
Yes, since Catabella is not here, I'm gonna ask a question on behalf of her. My question is, what are your favorite signs of spring?
My favorite signs of spring are when I get to walk around without a long sleeve shirt on and not even notice, and I'm just absolutely comfortable at that temperature which spring has offered to me. Which and it goes too long out there. Look at these long sleeves. You know, it's torture over here being dressed like. Earlier, I was in short sleeves making dinner, but then I came up to this room and it just got cold because in Los Angeles at this time of year before spring comes along, it's 79 degrees, and then an hour later it's 49 degrees. So you just can't trust, you know, what's going on in this part of the world with temperatures.
Wonderful answer. Thank you.
Sure. My pleasure. Any other questions before we get going? Chris, is that your hand? Sure, go ahead. Chris, you got to unmute. Do you not see the button to unmute?
I got it.
There
Yeah, I
you
got
go.
it. Okay, sometimes my old iPad doesn't respond to my finger. There's not enough electricity. Okay, the question is also for Cathabella. What do you find easy? What's easy for you?
Muting and unmuting in Zoom. I really have down to a science. I've got a special key character that I selected in the app, and boom, it's done. That's I think I find very easy.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was
Sure.
also for Cathabella.
I'm offering a class, by the way, Chris. Just think
Oh,
about
great.
it.
I need class in what's easy. Yeah. Class
All
is
right.
lots of, thanks a lot.
Sure, thank you, Chris. There's a Marlena Patrice Pugh Hamer in the chat room. If anyone knows who that, in the waiting room, if anyone knows who that is, send a message in the chat to let me know. Not a name I recognize. That having been said, we're going to get on with our open reading. Our first 5 readers will be Sean Mahoney, Martin Parker, Carrie Cox, Carl Stillwell, and then Jackie, Siggy, and Chris, and hopefully Cathabella will be here by then. If not, we'll just see what happens. Then our featured reader, then the rest of the open reading. So on deck we have Martin Parker. Please welcome our first reader. Where has Sean gone? I don't see Sean anymore. There you are. Why aren't you showing up when I type your name? All right, I gotcha. Okay. Sean, go for it.
Don't ever do that to me again, or I'll just leave like that. Okay, that's out of my system now. Whew, some aggro aggression, not necessary, but had to be said anyway, even if it's not necessary. So I just got to tell you, a couple hours ago, I was coming back from the vet with one of my dogs, and I got rear-ended. I'm fine, some moderate damage on the car, but the kid, who was like a 19-year-old boy, was freaking out like his life was over. He was even saying that, "Oh, I'm only 19, my life is over." Like, dude, it's just money. Give it to me and then go home and cry to your mom. That's my afternoon story. I have 2 pieces for you. This first one is new. It's called "We Sit Before She Shifting Glow." Net is the night, humanity at your fingertips. Wherever the itch, whatever the cure, we have a band to write and perform your special song, the one that gets you out of bed in the morning, the one you sort of masturbate to because the bridge section reminds one of she-golden waves, and the intro licks shred like spacious, rip like pregnant sky opening on our heads, upturned, filling our virgin throats with real flora and real fauna, entities with no role to play without an anthem, no champions, she disposable, our constitution, when convenient, when we just need a quickie. No cuddles, no more tired masses, naive, sweet kids we were, nearly lost now shaking through a new morning in America. Thank you. And this other one, it's a little older, but I don't believe I've read it here before. This is called Understanding the Lens, Part 3. You are ectochrome, superb, saturated, dense with flavor, meaning that your curves are like black licorice, bold and suspended on my tongue for several hours. You are ectochrome, transparent only for your most ardent supporter. They that see through your deflective posturing, they who brush your hand aside and stuff it into their own pocket. You are lab grown. I test you constantly. Stretch, pull, bend, pulse. Film is indeed forever, provided one lover snaps at the other lover. One lover clicks, refocus, clicks upon your back like spots on a wild, maddening zebra. Thank you.
Sean, thank you. My apologies for not seeing you. For some reason, I was typing your name. You should take this up with Zoom. I was typing your name in, and it wasn't filtering down to your list, so it was very confusing to me. I'm going to take it up with Zoom. That'll be the focus of the rest of the week because I
Yeah,
don't
why
want
go
you to.
through a proxy? I'm not part of this war, Rick. This is you and Zoom.
Okay, I will.
Make it
I
a
will take up
three-drink
the
minimum
cause,
and
and,
solve
and
it.
that's what I'll be focusing on the rest of the week. Sorry to hear that you got into a car accident. That what a terrible experience to have. But it sounds like you're in good spirits. Besides having almost killed a teenager, that's fine. We
He
all.
hit me, dude.
Well, that's I mean, can you blame him?
I did have a dog in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Sean, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for dealing with the shenanigans both there and here. And thanks for opening up the reading for us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Sean Mahoney. On deck is Carrie Cox. Please welcome now Martin Parker. Hello, Martin.
Hello again, Rick. I thought I'd start with a poem that incorporates the titles of a mixtape that I made for my partner way back in 1989, which is sort of later in my mixtape career, perhaps, although I continued to make mixed CDs for a while after that became the way to do it. So I sorted through her tapes recently, and I thought there'd be 4 or 5 mixtapes I made her. There were actually 12 somehow. This is called Drifting. Drifting gently away from the shore, I find myself grateful to the Lord of the Wind for bringing fair breezes on this crystal clear day as I go sailing toward what might have been. Now flurries are falling and clutter the air, making the sky a cloudy white haze. So I watch the snow dance on the banks of the stream, and soon I'm entranced and lost in a daze. Suddenly I hear the water ahead utter a cadence and cascade below, but feel the selva moon turn the tides in time to alter the way the falls flow. Even in the quietest moments, with only the faintest of sounds all around, I often find myself wondering aloud which direction I'm going and where I'm bound. But I hear a voice call me from across the sky as a pillow of winds fills my sails with ease. And the sun shines golden, golden as the dawn on the mouth of the river as I exit to the sea. And this is a much more recent poem, but also incorporating the titles, this time from an album by Ian Anderson called The Secret Language of Birds. I set aside the time to find a sanctuary inside my mind, to study the secret language of birds and how to put my thoughts into words. As the water carrier rises at noon in search of the sight of a better moon, to ride a Panama freighter down the Jasmine Quarter while the sound of Boris dancing the habanero reel takes me to Montserrat, where I feel the cry of the little flower girl that sets my circular breathing awhirl with strains of the Stermont shuffle that sway as I write down these lines on this postcard day. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Martin. Couple of great poems from you. Enjoyed them both. I used to make mixed CDs as well. I hung on to that for a long time, well into the digital age of well past the death of physical media, let's just say. So there you go. It almost feels illegitimate just making a playlist. You know what I'm saying? But the kids today with their playlists.
Right.
Martin, enjoyed your work. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Round of applause for Martin Parker. On deck, Carl Stillwell. Please welcome now Carrie Cox. Hi, Carrie.
Hello. I would like to try to do a screen share. I'm always jealous that everyone gets to screen share. And I have a poem that's kind of screen sharey, so I'm going to try it. Is it working? Nothing's happening? Okay. Here, I think. I've never done it before, so be patient with me. It's called Voice Box, and it's somewhat of a visual poem, which is why I want to share it this way. I also rear-ended somebody today. Not John. There was a big truck and he stopped all of a sudden and he had this very long hitch that came out the back and it just impaled right into my car. This has to do with car crashes. So, voice box. Carpet slip, tired car battery, cannonballs, too much ice on the road, slip, skid, smash, June fire, circled stone sticks, charcoal damp, smoky-eyed ambiance, revving engine, stolen fur, a clasp of neck and smudging silhouette, green morning eyes, smoking July stationary, humid thoughts worrying the pillowcase, cat curled window ledge, staccato rain, whiplash, shutter leaves, dream gold, root karma kicked up in dust, days done over right, broken plate, kitchen cooking, desire, starched collars, homemade afterthoughts, hungry still for something, burnt, smiling through broken window, teetering grandmother eyes, crinkled like cupped palm supper skin, no more collecting trinket-faced hideaways to keep your silence in. And then I have one more poem. It's called Sins of Omission. Some nights are closed in, small boxes, music plays in hallways, young instruments wailing of protest against the slashing of science, the dreams of strings, and in the safety of our solitude, conversations are making themselves happen without lips or words or microphones, shushed like slushy ocean. Doors slam outside, drawings dry like paint. Sleep is warned and shuddering forms like dew. Cartoon castles corrupted with age scrawl their own epitaphs on an endless blank page. Dormant fights are left like breath to discover their own death. Still, the looking glass tempts the small to get smaller, the walls to grow taller, and faces of fiends to face their own squalor. This will be sacrificed. A code to a room that no one can guess or even assume is filled with a new kind of noon. Midnight and decorated with fistfight dynamite deeds are skinned together like a pomegranate bleeds, and the temptations of compass pointing straight down, where the lessons are easy and the devil's a clown. We eat underwater and desert those who drown, saving our knives in our sleeves for easily undressing our enemies and questioning, lessening the danger signals, code red to orange to yellow to green, ignoring the spaces between. And now I have a feeling that there's more to praying than kneeling, more to flying than flapping, more to dreaming than closing your eyes, and more to deceiving than telling lies. Thank you.
Carrie, thank you. Great work as always. Sorry to hear that you also got into an accident today. I see there's an unfortunate theme developing tonight with you and Sean and Jennifer in the chat mentioned she almost got into an accident. Lock your doors, people. The cars are coming into the reading, and we just need to be careful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Carrie Cox. On two more readers, and then our featured reader, Jacqueline Allen Trimble. On deck is the collab, Cathabella, Jackie, Siggy, and Chris. Please welcome now Carl Stillwell. Hello, Carl.
Okay, Rick, I have a poem of two first. The first poem is my first car. and all that jazz. At the age of 31, I bought my first car, a fading blue 53 Chevy, which I called the Blue Blazer, for $125. What a bargain. When I saw Thelonious Book on the cover of Time and heard he was featured at Shelley's Manhole or North Cahuenga Boulevard, Hollywood, me and Blue Blazer took off to see and hear this jazz heavyweight perform. Around midnight, driving on Hollywood and Pasadena freeways, straight, no chaser, reflections of a blue muck, a pistoffi, dead rhythm, ning me all the way home. Blue Blazer also took me to Shelley's Manhole to hear and watch the Modern Jazz Quartet, Charles Lloyd, Carmen McRae, Miles Davis, and Bill Evans, who was one of the pianists on the greatest jazz album ever recorded, Miles' Maggot classic, Kinda Blue. 1 year after the riots, or uprising, depending on your point of view, I attend the Watts Jazz Festival. In the afternoon, under the junk sculpted tower of Simon Rodia, the drumming is like a flower power fiesta and a love-in. And deep within my heart, I do believe that one day we, black and white together, shall overcome. But as Hugh Masekela trumpeted fanfare's West Coast Sundown, majority of minority European Americans leave a festival, and I am left with a few other white skins engulfed in the Joseph Conrad Heart of Darkness night. War beats take over drums, flashbacks to a year ago, unrest follow. Burn, baby, burn. Get whitey, black power. Suddenly, blonde Euro in bare midriff stands up in spotlight and shakes blue jean booty to roar and laughter of jazz aficionado assembly. A jazz brother needs a ride, and in my 53 Chevy, I drive him to his ghetto home. My pale blue clucker could have broken down there, but it didn't. And even if it did, as Miles Davis might have kind of blued with muted horn to Bill Evans' piano introduction, so what? The Blue Blazer was the car I had when I married Cheryl. Luke was born, and with Cheryl, it broke down before Luke was born, and went to clunker heaven. It was replaced by a 67 bright yellow Datsun, which was the car I took Cheryl to the hospital in March 20, 1968, when Luke was born, Christmas of 68. The first time I traveled by plane was the Christmas of 68, when Cheryl and I took Luke, 9 months old, to visit my mother and stepdad, Jimmy, who he would later call Mo and Po. Luke was born 2 weeks before Martin Luther King was assassinated. 1 year from the day he spoke in opposition to the Vietnam War from the pulpit of the Riverside Church in New York City. In June that year, just when it seemed Robert Kennedy was on the verge of ending the war in Vietnam after winning the California Democratic presidential primary, he was murdered like his brother. And the greatest obstacle in the way of the masters of war continuing their bloodbath in Southeast Asia was removed. Jesus Christ, I wondered. Into what kind of world was my beautiful boy been born? I did not feel like eating, but the next day I broke my fast by picking out on peanut butter spread on crackers. In August, we watched on our black and white TV at the 67 Democratic Convention in Chicago, Daley's blue bullies charged with clubs and swinging a crowd of anti-war demonstrators who were shouting, "The whole world is watching, the whole world is watching, the whole world is watching." Tricky Dick, who I voted for in 1960, was elected that November over liberal war hawk Hubert Humphrey. Bob and Jimmy probably voted for Nixon, but this was Christmas, and as the head of our family grandma would say, for family gatherings, never argue politics or religion. Besides, Bob caught the Hong Kong flu from Cheryl, who got it from Lou, who, unlike his mother and Mo, recovered quickly. Christmas Eve on Bob and Jim's Color TV, I watched world premiere of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That night it snowed, and I woke up to a rare white Christmas in Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Great piece, a lot of history in there to share. It's ironic that I don't know if this is going to sound right, but the assassination of Robert Kennedy feels like such an innocent time for us because we all knew it was wrong. And I say that not having remembered it from because I was too young or possibly not even alive at the point, but whereas today it seems like we have a much more difficult time unifying over any kind of moral compass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
thank you for that. Thank you for that history and that poem, and for being here tonight.
But thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Sure. Round of applause for Carl Stillwell. On deck is our featured reader, Jacqueline Allen Trimble. Please welcome now the collab, Cathabella, Wilson, Jackie Chow, Chris, Kondo, and Siggy. Hello to all of you.
Hi, Rick. I will share our poem in a moment. It is trying to hide from me, but it is here and it's wonderful. So, Rick, why don't you introduce your wonderful flute while I find this creature?
Oh, you're lost. Okay. This is a wonderful flute, she says. In fact, what it is a replica of an ancient Han Dynasty flute. The original is probably 2,300 years old, and it's a replica. Two things are surprising. It's very quiet because the holes are so small. And the other thing is that it's the kind of flute played by Native American. Pardon?
Oh, that's just somebody talking.
Oh, someone talking, yeah.
Yes.
It's the type that's called the modern Native American flute. And I always thought this idea was Native American, but the Chinese had it
100,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this will share now. Do you see this? Drafts, maybe here. I think this should be it. Here we go. Yes, Spring Fever. Okay, here we go with flute accompaniment. Spring Fever. Signs of spring. I feel like wearing my yellow hat. Happy sunshine, it says. Even though it's dark and chilly.
Cherry blossoms and other pink trees, signs of spring, and a chance to write more seasonal poems.
Are they early? Where have I been? Sakura, around the corner in my memories.
Around the corner in Japan, Okay, Siggy.
The Canadian geese have returned to the mill pond. No need for passports. Soon they will hide in a nest. We'll watch the ducklings grow up.
Young spring bamboo after we climbed Yellow Mountain. I slipped and slide across the restaurant floor.
How easily the raven flies away from disturbances. Here we have rent and bills to pay.
So easy to do nothing. But my brother's t-shirt says, nothing is easy.
Siggy.
Buds on branches of the driveway ash tree. My screech sneeze. First sign of spring before tulips bloom.
I'll never forget that one, Siggy.
You should hear it there.
Yes.
Dusting the bagua mirror in spring, the deflection of my own reflection.
Does everyone know what bagua means?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. I didn't know. Okay. A cluster of grapes in the feeder. No walnuts? A squirrel with spring fever eats them anyway. Chris.
You got it too high. One step in front of another, the practice I need to return to day in and day out.
Every morning while I brush my teeth, I practice. I don't want to lose my shimmy, and I've got rhythm.
My friend and I practice being smart with the thesaurus, making lists of words in geometry class.
Wonderful. Here's the essence of our connection. Math conference. I'm here to steal your words. Sunflower system in combinatorics and perfect nestedness. A word worth stealing.
Ain't easy to learn the bagpipes and march. They practice weekly. Some love to hear them play. To me, it sounds like cats fighting.
There we go. We did it.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Rick.
Thank you, Rick, and everyone, and wonderful poets.
Well, any poem that has the word taint in it is a poem for me. Thank you guys very much. Great piece, Cathabella, Siggy, Jackie, and Chris, and Rick. As always, thank you for the replica of ancient sounds that you provide to us. Always great to see what you guys are doing. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Rick. Wonderful.
Thank you.
It was fun. Great.
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, round of applause to all of those folks. Thank you all very much. On deck after our featured reader will be Kaylee Burbank and the rest of the open reading, who I will list, who I have on the list after our featured reader. Don't worry, if you've signed up, I've got you, and if somehow I missed you, you'll hear that your name isn't there, and you'll send me a pointed message and I'll add you. It'll be fine. Which leads us now to our featured reader, Jacqueline Allen Trimble. Jacqueline is a poet who I came across once again thanks to the gift of the daily poetry email that the Academy of American Poets sends out, which I read, as I've said many times, while still in bed. It's my procrastination ahead of the rest of the day, reading a poem from that list and from a couple of other lists that come. I was thrilled to see the poem that they published from Jacqueline and added her to the list of people to check out. I checked her out. I invited her. She said yes. And here we are tonight. Jacqueline is a National Endowment for the Arts Creative Writing Fellow, a Cave Canem Fellow, and she's on the Alabama State Council on the Arts, or she is a Alabama State Council on the Arts Literary Fellow, so quite a lot of feathers in Jacqueline's cap. Her poetry has appeared in places such as Poetry Magazine, the Louisville Review, The Offing. What a great title. I haven't heard of that magazine before. You only get in the offing once and then you're done. It sounds like that's what that title might mean. And Poet Lore, she's been featured, as I mentioned, on Poem of the Day, Poetry Daily, a number of other places. She's got a couple of books out, including the award-winning collection, her first collection, American Happiness, which came out in 2016 on Balcones Press, and her most recent book, which came out in 2022, is called How to Survive the Apocalypse, which is good information. I hope you share some of share some of that information with us tonight. There, I figured out how the English language works. I'm so thrilled that you're here, Jacqueline. I know you invited a lot of people, and I'm happy that you did that, and we're all here to hear your work. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to our featured reader, Jacqueline Trimble.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? I didn't have any accidents today, so I'm doing okay. So I thought I would read some poetry, and I'm going to start with a poem from my first collection. I started out my life trying to be a poet and went to study with Garrett Hongo, who is an amazing American poet. And life happened and decided to go home, get married. My mother died, so I decided to go home, get married. And didn't stop writing poetry, started working at a university. And my dean and my chairperson said, well, if you want to keep working here, you need to go get a PhD. So I did that. I went and got a PhD in English, and I didn't write poetry for 30 years after having spent my entire first part of my life writing poetry. And it was not until my husband said to me one morning, "You're not happy, you're not writing," that I started writing again. And so that's how American Happiness happened. I was supposed to be writing this academic article on thinking about, it's interesting, the wonderful poem that was read about Robert Kennedy's assassination in the cars, and a kind of, in some ways, different time sensibility. American Happiness was about 1968. And it was about how the Andy Griffith Show and Gentle Ben were the number 1 and 2. Gentle Ben was actually number 1, and Andy Griffith Show was the number 2 television shows in America. And it struck me as very interesting that during a time when Southern law enforcement was neither kind nor gentle, that the 2 most popular shows in America featured Southern law enforcement that was incredibly kind and gentle. And so my whole thesis of the article was that America seems more enamored of what it imagines itself to be than what it actually is. It's like Disney World, the happiest place on earth, except everything's fake. And so I was supposed to be writing this academic article, and I decided instead to write a poem. And I haven't stopped writing poems since that time. So I thought I'd start with American Happiness and then read a few poems. It's really weird. I started reading over Zoom, of course, like everybody else during the pandemic, but it's a really weird thing to read over Zoom for me because I'm such a poet that moves by the audience inspiration. So this is always weird, feels always weird, like I'm sitting in a room talking to myself. But anyway, it's nice to see your wonderful faces. And I loved the poems that you guys all read. So this is called American Happiness. It used to be in Mayberry, folks were never colored, not even black and white, but beige, khaki, a little gray. In Mayberry, Deputy Barney had one bullet and no need for rope. The only burning he did was for his Thelma Lou. The sheriff had no gun, just an Aunt Bee baking pies and an Opie full of freckles heading off to fish or sing or court, whatever Opies do. In Mayberry, no doors were barred or locked. The jail was mostly empty. The only water hose we ever saw lay peacefully curled on Sheriff Andy's lawn. Mayberry was a southern town. Technicolor must have killed it. Made Andy a cranky lawyer, sent Opie running all the way to Hollywood. But we remember black and white. From Chicago to Watts to Selma, we tuned in to connect the dots of Opie's face while we dined on mashed potatoes and buttered corn right before our TV sets. Mesmerized that in this southern town, the sheriff used his hose to water Aunt Bee's roses. We were so happy and relieved. We laughed until we could not think, until we fell off our sofas and wingbacks and cane bottoms. We laughed until we could not see or hear, until we could forget that outside our own windows, other sheriffs with loaded guns, snarling dogs, and ready hoses made quick work of a world on fire. So the next poem I want to read is called What If the Supreme Court Were Really the Supremes? So I just, it's a poem about the way my mind works. And so I don't know, I hope you all remember who the Supremes were, because that's what I've translated the Supreme Court to. So here we go. What if the Supreme Court were really the Supremes? Oh, how their bedazzled robes shine as they glide into the courtroom. Open wide their satin-gloved arms, flutter their long store-bought eyelashes and croon. My world is empty without you, babe. Even Cindy Birdsong envies their hips. Pop and sway, dip and snap, each one a lady. With these judges made new by the rhythm and the blues, the ooh, ooh, baby magic of a Motown spell, ever hold the sequined fish of my voting rights above their lovely bouffant heads, tip its iridescent scales toward the camera, then gut it like a dinner trout? So most of my work, because my field is American literature, and so if you're a professor of American literature, you teach a lot of American history, and so there's a lot of intersections in my work between American history, and I'm fascinated by history. My husband's actually was a history teacher, so that helped a lot, and I'm interested in these intersections, and so I used to get in arguments with people on social media. I don't do that anymore. Turned out I'd rather spend my time writing poems than arguing with people for reasons that it won't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. So I decided to write a woman that I had gone to school with asked this question. This was right after the George Floyd murder, and people were protesting and doing lots of things. And she said, I don't understand why people are burning down fast food restaurants. And so instead of arguing with her, I decided to write a poem. And so I wrote this poem, and this is a poem because I think, and maybe it's because I'm a Southerner, that history is always the present moment. And I always like to look for those places where history is really an intersection of the present moment. And so this poem is called This Is Why People Are Burning Down Fast Food Joints and Whatnot. And it has an epigram. And the epigram, so if you don't know, to enslave people, the southern states, many places in the southern states would teach enslaved people Christianity by giving them catechisms. But those catechisms were focused on why being enslaved was a good thing. And so they would, and because most of the enslaved people could not read nor write, they would just have them memorized. And so I begin with an epigram from a catechism to be taught orally to those who cannot read, designed especially for the instruction of the slaves. And this comes from the Protestant Episcopal Church in the Confederate States. And this is what the catechism said. It said, question, how do others sin against you? Answer, by cursing me, telling lies about me, or striking me. Question, what must you do to those who thus sin against you? Answer, I must forgive them. See, I learned my catechism well. Learned to offer my cloak and coat, my cheek again and again as the skin was splayed from my body. I can quote Martin Luther King Jr. with ease, praise the Americana of his martyrdom, the sweet, unselfish beauty of that bullet's velocity. Shall I sing, we shall overcome while I swing? I have wanted so long to believe in justice, to think of each blow as recompense for my wickedness. How can I continue? How can I continue to take and eat this image of myself, choke on the eloquence of my dissent, speak love fluently to someone with his knee on my neck, his bullet in my child? So it's a really interesting thing. And I know people live in different places, and you guys are, many of you are on the West Coast. But I live in the state of Alabama, which is a really interesting state. And oddly enough, a state I love very much. But I believe that you question the thing that you love, particularly when it is off kilter, which my lovely Alabama often is. And so my mother, who is a very, very pale Black woman, very, very pale, so pale that if you did not know she were a Black woman, you wouldn't know she were a Black woman. So she and my stepfather lived in Selma, Alabama. And some people saw them walking down the street one day, hand in hand, and they assumed she had committed miscegenation, which is a no-no. This is in the 60s, which was a no-no. But of course she had not. So, and then I saw, and I'm going to read you the epigram so you'll know what brought this to mind. So this is a poem for my mother, and it's called Counting Race. And so the epigram just says, wait a minute, hold on just a minute, he said, trying to put on an all-knowing smile. This is called statistical noise. And this was said by Craig Cobb, who is a white supremacist, and he was disputing a DNA test that he was 86% European and 14% sub-Saharan African. And this was reported, by some show he was on. Counting race. Day after she walked downtown with her dark husband, her alabaster arm looped casually through his, her hazel eyes sparkling with laughter, my mother ran through those same Selma streets, down quiet sidewalks, across every friendly backyard until she reached home and the welcome of neighbors. The car of white men pursuing her wanted a word or two about her white legs, her blonde head thrown back, her fingers in his woolly hair. Too bad they couldn't see her blood. How can we measure one drop? By thimble or spoon, by paper bag or fine tooth comb. Once the lexicon noted the count: hexadecaroon, 1/16 black; octoroon, one whole black grandparent; mulatto, half and half. We don't like to talk of it that way, or remember on the 4th of July that Sally Hemings, quadroon, 1/4 black, bore Thomas Jefferson 6 children, or think of Strom Thurmond, rabid segregationist, taking the 15-year-old daughter of his maid to bed. How he hated miscegenation. Even his own blood in a mulatto daughter's heart could not sway his rant against her voting rights. How he loved untainted blood, as much as that man on the talk show yesterday who wants to build a white town for whites like him. He smiles beneath his certainty, his eyes calm as the Dead Sea. He does not know purity is a trap, as fake as gerrymandered districts and black on black crime. He does not know until the host tells him the parsing of his blood. 1/7 black, blacker than an octoroon, almost as black as my mother, child of a tobacco-colored man, mixed race, and a quadroon. I can't remember what they call that, or if I ever knew. So I'm going to read 3 more poems. Is that okay? Is that good? Okay. 3 more poems. When I was finishing How to Survive the Apocalypse, and believe it or not, I started writing that book before the pandemic. So I don't know, maybe I'm, should open up a psychic network or something, because I saw it coming, maybe. I don't know. So, but the theory of that book, or the thesis of that book, is that people have survived many apocalypses. And that what has allowed us to survive is creativity, where we take whatever there is, the scraps of clothing, and we make it something beautiful. We turn it into a quilt. Soul food, peasant food. Every culture has a form of peasant food that has been sort of the leftovers, the scraps, the stuff that most people don't want to eat, and they've turned it into something delicious, right? Something wonderful. And so the argument was that it's our creativity. And so part of the book talks about what we have survived and what we are surviving. And the other part of the book sort of celebrates how we survived. And so I've been writing a whole series of poems about violence against Black bodies. And I got up one morning and I just could not write another poem about a dead Black person. So I thought of a story my mother told me about something that happened to her. And I thought, this is what I'm going to write about today. And I want to share this poem with you. It's called The Language of Joy. The language of joy. Black woman joy is like this. Mama said one day, long before I was born, she was walking down the street, foxes around her neck, their little heads smiling up at her and out at the world. And she was wearing this suit she had saved up a month's paycheck for after it called to her so seductively from the window of this boutique. And that suit was wearing her, keeping all its promises in all the right places. Indigo, matching gloves, suede shoes, dippity-doo-dah in blue, with tassels, honey gold, and Lord, a hat with plume to peacock, a conductor's baton that bounced to hip rhythm. She looked so fine, she thought Louis Armstrong might pop up out of those movies she saw as a child, wipe his forehead and sing ba-da-da-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And he did. Mama did not sing, but she was skiddly doing that day. And the foxes grinned and she was the star of her own Hollywood musical. Here was Satchmo, who had called Ella over, and now they were all singing and dancing like a free people up Dexter Avenue. And don't think they didn't know they were walking in the footsteps of slaves and over auction sites and past where old Wallace had held on to segregation like a life raft. But this was not that day. This day was for foxes and hip rhythm and musical perfection and folks on the street joining in the celebration of breath and holiness. And they did too. And color coordinated ensembles, they kicked and turned and grinned and shouted like church or a football game, whatever their religious preference. The air vibrated with music, arms, legs, and years of unrequited sunshine. Somebody did a flip up Dexter Avenue. It must have been a Nicholas brother in a featured performance. And Mama was Miss Lena Horn, Dorothy Dandridge, high stepping up the real estate, ready for her close-up. That's when Mama felt this little tickle. She thought it might be pent-up joy, until a mouse squirmed out from underneath that fine collar, over that fabulous fur, jumped off her shoulder and ran down the street. Left my mama standing there on Dexter Avenue in her blue suit and dead foxes. And what did Mama do? Everybody looking at her, robbed by embarrassment. She said, "It be like that sometimes." Then she and Satchmo, Ella, and the whole crew jammed their way home. So I am the collection I'm working on right now is called Joy in a Time of Elegy. And the elegiac, my deep dive into the elegiac was inspired by, or was, I don't know, inspired is not the right word, was pushed by the death of my son. My husband and I lost our son about 2 years ago. And the only way that I really understand the world is by writing about it. And so I finally got to the point where I began to write about my son again. And I started writing these elegies. But if we think about elegy is both lament and celebration. And so I began to think about elegy in expansive ways, and thinking that the time we're living in right now is what I call an elegiac time, because we have lost so much. And to think about the ways that we can think about elegy, not just of personal loss, but of communal loss, national loss, global loss. So I began to write all of these poems that are elegiac in many ways. So I want to, my last two poems I want to share are from that upcoming collection. And they're both elegiac poems. The first one is called How to Write Poetry Again After the Death of Your Son. If after a time you find your heart still beating, though you are uncertain how, and if after an absence from all sound except the wailing and gnashing of teeth, someone calls you back into the realm of the living, invites you on a pilgrimage to Greece of all places, makes you halt your slow crawl down the river Styx in search of your loved one's face, say yes. Even if you wonder how the husk of what you were can still fly these days, or how you will resurrect your husband from his cooling board of despair. Say yes. Fill your bag with shorts and dresses, cotton and cool as you can find. Whatever will free the body to be the body. Whatever you would wear to a heaven of endless topaz seas. Stand on your deck or in your yard. Practice knowing breeze, night jasmine, the pleasure of your own skin vibrating with sweat. Remember what is required to be alive. Scatter keys like talismans among the neighbors. Tell them not to call unless something is on fire. And if it is on fire, call somebody else. Let others tend your ordinary life until you return, if you return. Who knows what siren song may lure you to a pleasant cave forever. Do not give in to trepidation or folklore or Puritan austerity meant to tame unruly passions. Do not let grief pull you back into its spacious sepulcher. You are going to the land of the gods. Do not be afraid of pomegranate and kumquat, lemon and olive, honey and lotus upon the tongue. We were born for a sensual paradise. If the airline orphans you from your husband and a woman takes his seat without apology or regret, endure this small catastrophe for all that is to come. This will not be a Greek tragedy. You are not Sophocles. You are not even Odysseus or Medea. You are the poet, nobody. Shed the winding sheet to which you have grown accustomed. Rise up from the tomb of your life and begin again to sing. So this last poem is for my son. To my son. Do you remember when you were 4 and we were on the airplane ascending as if to heaven? And you panicked, you freaked out because you did not want to ascend at that moment. And I freaked out, afraid too of the swiftness and roar of engines in which I had no faith. And when I came to my senses, maybe 5 seconds later, you refused to let me hold your hand, angry I had left you in your time of need. Transgressions like this one are all I think of these days. And of course, my stunning absence the night you lay on your bed and died. Were you, a full-grown man, more willing to be lifted into that unknown expanse? Were you afraid? Did you reach again for my missing hand? And forgive me for all the times I failed you. Thank you very much.
Jacqueline, wow, it doesn't get much better than your set of poems tonight, and that last piece is heart-wrenching and so good. Thank you for your work tonight. Thank you for reminding me that it was 1968, the assassination, which is the year I was born, so I wasn't quite on top of the news yet at that time, referencing what I talked about earlier. I get how you feel about reading on Zoom. There's something different about reading in person when you can hear people react in some way, when they laugh at the right time, when they go at the right time, or give you that kind of thing. Those tangible poetry reading audience elements are good to have. We do the best we can with our this and this and this, and And this, of course, format lets us connect with people in Alabama all the way to Southern California. So it kind of works out. I
Yeah.
appreciate the poem. I didn't recognize the term, but the miscegenation, is that the word?
Miscegenation. Yeah, miscegenation.
Miscegenation.
Yeah.
Hearing that today in particular, I just read that they removed some of the language about
The requirement,
segregation.
right? Federal buildings to have not have segregated spaces, water fountains.
So, it feels like, the poem that you wrote about way back then is something that could have been written today based on, what's going on. I loved the line "keeping all its promises in all the right places" about the dress. That was out of sight.
Nice.
Someone did a backflip. Someone did a flip up Douglas Avenue. It was a lot of fun too. There was so much greatness in your work I could just listen to you all night. I'm gonna show folks the broads. Well, let me paste in the chat the stuff and share the screen so I can show the broadside made for that last poem. Happens to be the one you sent in for the broadside. You can download this 11 by 17 print now at the link I pasted in the chat at the Cobalt Poets website. Look at it on your screen, print it out, whatever you would like to do, and make it your screen wallpaper, your phone wallpaper, whatever you'd like to do.
Rick, thank you so much for that. I love that picture, and I really appreciate that so much.
My pleasure. It seemed to fit what was going on with your poem. In this case the kid reaching maybe for the parent's hand there, and so maybe the opposite sentiment, but a dream and a memory nonetheless. I hope that you'll consider downloading this and supporting our featured poet by doing one of a couple things. One is tipping Jacqueline for her reading. I pasted into the chat both a Venmo and a PayPal ID. Same thing as passing a hat around at an in-person reading. Put some money in the Venmo or PayPal, and it all goes directly to Jacqueline for her reading tonight. There's also a link to her book, How to Survive the Apocalypse. A link to it on Amazon and one on bookshop.org. So take your pick, pick up a copy of her book. You can find her other book there as well, American Happiness. And finally, a link to Jacqueline's website in case you want to keep in touch and see what she's up to as she works on her next book and shares news with her. So Jacqueline, thank you again. Really fantastic reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, round of applause for our featured reader, Jacqueline Ellen Trimble. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Come back anytime, please. Read some more work for us. Try stuff out on us. It would be great. It would be great. So, all right, quickly we'll mention that next week our featured reader is Ted Burke and open reading. More on Ted as the week progresses. On to the rest of tonight's open reading. Here's who I have on the list. In this order: Kaylee Burbank, Martina Robles Gallegos, Michael G. Hickey, Jeffrey Bryant, Richard Loringer, Gloria Durgee, Ken Scott, Jennifer Elise Wang, Marlena Patrice, David Hideo Mariama, Heidi Casa, Julian Matthews, Walker Valdez Digwayne, and me. If I missed anyone, or if anyone would like to be added, please do me a favor and send me a message in the chat, and I'll be happy to add you. As a reminder, 2 poems maximum, and less is more. That's our time limit. So please keep that in mind when you're choosing how much it is to read. We got a healthy open reading list in terms of length and quality as well, for that matter. So having said all that, we'll say on deck is Martina Robles Gallegos. Please welcome our next reader, Kaylee Burbank. Hello, Kaylee.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is my first time to ever do a live reading or to share any of my personal work, for that matter. So please forgive me if it's not up to standard. This first piece is called Baby Boy You. Eyes as blue as a warm spring sky, golden ringlet locks shine in the glow of a sun. That's what you are, a son, young, fragile, innocent, and undeserving. In memory, I still clinch to this version of you, shielding your eyes from seeing the horror before us, protecting you, only you. Now you've grown, a man, a dad. Time has perceived me. Yet I still find myself grieving this version of you, rather, that version of myself. My eyes weren't shielded, no one standing behind me to hold me. I've drowned in this memory time and time again. My brother, my anchor, my friend. I could handle the horror, you shouldn't have had to. So soul and memory, I still clenched this version of you. Okay.
Kaylee, that was fantastic. Do you have a second poem before I interrupt you?
Yes, just a one small one. It's called A Child Alone. Your pain I understand. I too dream of the heavens. Far from land, only a soul, no man. Though I don't grasp how you left me without, a mother no more left me, her child at war.
Kaylee, what an honor that we are your first spot that you've felt comfortable enough to share at work with us. I hope it was a good experience for you. I hope you do it a gazillion more times, whether it's here, please let it be here, or anywhere else that you choose to do it. What a fantastic journey you've just launched yourself onto, sharing your work with other people. Please come and do it again. Round of applause for Kaylee Burbank, first time reading her work for people. Fantastic. On deck, Michael G. Hickey. Please welcome now Martina Robles Gallegos. Hello, Martina.
Thank you. Oh, what an awesome feature. Wow. I have a couple of short ones. This one I wrote, I guess yesterday? No, a couple of days ago. It's called Hope and Faith. When I know I've given my all, but my all hasn't been enough, should I give up? No, because even plants that wither come back to life. When I can no longer see light in people's eyes or hearts, should I give up? No, because even a stray ember can cause a fire. When I see people making me invisible, should I give up? No, because even a rusty jewel will shine again. When people call me names for something I had no control over, should I give up? No, because my list of beautiful names is much longer than theirs, and I created it with hope, faith, grace, and dreams that nobody will ever take away. When all doors slam forcefully on my face, should I then give up? No, because as long as I have hope in my heart and mind, I know other doors will open. When the few people I trusted let me down, should I give up? No, because that simply means I'm giving up on myself, and giving up is not in my nature. Thank you. Since my daughter's birthday is coming up, I think I read this one, but a different version. I've never climbed a tree. I've taken trips to the sea. I've watched cities from rooftops, but I've never climbed a tree. That nagging wish never stops. The trees around my neighborhood look so feeble, I fear they'll crack. For tree climbing, I'm in the mood, or a face I'm going to smack. Thin hemlocks or weeping willows, which one will I dare climb first? I keep crying on my pillows. A tree I must climb, or I will burst. Thank you.
Martina, thank you very much for being here. Careful on top of trees, and just so you know, you are certainly not invisible to us. Thank you so much for being here. Round of applause for Martina Robles Gallegos. On deck is Jeffrey Bryant. Please welcome now Michael G. Hickey. Hello, Michael.
Hi, everyone. Jacqueline, the stage is still smoldering. You were on fire tonight. Wow, that was amazing. I know there's this theme, and you may believe, I don't care if you believe it or not. I do care. You're my family. You're my Cobalt family. Okay. This happened to me today. I had something else prepared to read. I just wrote it. I'm a reporter in this poem. I didn't make up a damn thing. Okay. I literally just wrote this. I was writing it while I was listening to you guys. Okay. It's called I Don't Have a Son Named Michael. I'm answering emails at 1:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember I have to swing by the grocery store to get something for tomorrow's potluck. Then I get a phone call. You know, that cell phone chime that still sounds weird somehow? The person on the other end of the line half whispers, half cries in the single most desperate voice I've ever heard. Dad, Dad, this is your son. Dad, I'm in really big trouble. There's a slight pause, and then, Dad, I hit another car and it's really bad. I am the father of 2 teenage sons, and there is, I admit, an instantaneous solace in knowing that this voice sounds nothing like either of them. Still, I go into super dad mode. With 11 children, my father was an expert at this. In any time of trauma, crisis, life or death emergency, you have to be calm, cool, composed, like you're about to perform open heart surgery. Use objectivity, reason, logic in a soft but measured voice. I ask, what is your name? He responds, Michael. Well, I say, my name is Michael Hickey, and I don't have a son named Michael. He hangs up immediately. And later I think, why would he misdial his own father's phone number? Wouldn't Dad be in the contact list? And all night I wonder how it went with Michael's dad and the other driver and how's the other driver? Are they okay? Are you okay? Damn, I wish I'd have written down his phone number, you know? I find myself really needing to know about a son I never had named Michael. Thank you.
Wow, the Cobalt theme somehow found you tonight, a theme that we didn't even know was happening. What an interesting thing. If you hear back from Michael, let us know what went on
I
there.
certainly will. And, occasionally God just throws these things at us and like, okay, fine, I'm writing it right now. Okay. So I hope he's okay. I pray, I'm literally praying for him. And because, anyway, the poem says it all.
Indeed. Michael, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Hope tomorrow is a better day for everybody. Thanks a lot. Round of applause for Michael G. Hickey. On deck is Richard Loringer. Please welcome now Jeffrey Bryant. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is a really hard night to follow anybody, I got to tell you. Wonderful poems, Jacqueline. I was so deeply moved by everything you read tonight. Thank you for sharing with us. I have a whopping 6 poems in this new anthology, which is just released from Chawa Needles Press. So I'll read a couple things from it. First one is called In the Marrow. I follow his voice into the catacomb of vanished lovers. I hold a bone that once held me, and a foot I rubbed, now brittle to my touch. And the rib cage I embraced until he abandoned it, quietly emptied of all his sins. Over there sits his skull I caressed in the afterglow of our overflow, with spaces vacant of the eyes that hypnotized, but suddenly warm to the touch like he's still inside. His voice rises and surrounds me on all sides. I am not a ghost or some specter you chase or bust. I am alive in your marrow now. You laid out your cross of candles, water and bread, your papel picado, and I found you, whispered you here to hold me as bone once more. Like Hamlet held Yorick, you knew me well. Now, release the bone and go. Carry me in your every breath. Manifest me beyond my death. My second poem is called Play Me Off, he said. I played soft piano etudes for him, gently, against the tempo of his labored breathing. His fragile flesh held together with the frayed strings of discount courage. Each etude I wrestled against requiem. I turned left to avoid lament as death teased him with its long raven feathers. And the cinema of his lifetime played out across his failing eyes. The sun took its time dropping down that day, the single star that graciously agreed to dim 1 minute in his honor. My final musical notes were slowly pulled over his face, and he vanished under cover of dissonance. I was confronted with what remained swirling in a mist of perfumed prayers. I fell silent over the wet keys of a weeping piano. I have no one left now to lay to rest. Thank you.
Jeffrey, thank you very much. Sounds like you might be getting over a cold there. I hope you're mostly past it and feel better soon. Thank you so much for being here. A round of applause for Jeffrey Bryant. On deck, Gloria Durgee. Please welcome now Richard Loringer. Hello, Richard.
Hey. Jacqueline, I just wanted to say that was such a moving set. It blew me away and put me into a very different place than I was, and especially all of it really, but especially your last couple of poems took me to a place of where it took me to a grieving place I was at like 10 years ago. I think the deepest one I had, and I hope it's not inappropriate, but I had to run and grab one of the grief poems. Is that okay with you if I read a grief poem? I'm not a competitive person. It just welled up. So yeah, I've never had children, but this was the death of a much younger lover about 10 years ago, and they were still trying to figure out their life, and it wasn't really working out. I broke up with them, and they OD'd a few months later. First time I ever heard the word fentanyl. First time, and grief kind of fucked me up for a while. So I'd like to read this, and then a second one I wrote at the time. It's shorter, but neither one's too long. That was sort of like an antidote, I suppose. And I did a reading tour right after that, including Portland, where their parents lived, and I cried the whole fucking tour. I'd get up and read these poems and just start crying, and so I actually had to ask my friends I was touring with, should I not be doing this? I feel like I'm upsetting people everywhere I go. In Portland, the whole audience was crying, and I'm like, oh shit. I felt like I overstepped myself, in the readings, but they were like, no, you should be doing it. So I'm going to shut up now. I'm sorry I'm talking so much. This is called Grief House in memory of Bryce. Acutely we dream, we feel, sound simple as clouds, till the face foams up, eyes blanken, and nothing can be done. They pass and we are shorn, paper flipping in wind, wings crushed in a machine, heartless. Pour a bottle of wax on my face and walk away. Let the ants come. Let the clouds roll in and rip the trees from their roots. Moths in a whirlpool, we find our way home. Acutely we wake in the thorn-fed hollows of night, stumbling on faces, run through by laughter, shocked by the sheer-shot spine of the dark. We reach in the night for half-spun smoke scattered by our fingertips. We call out for someone not present. Half of our skin is ours. The other half bleeds into night as the hungry world feeds on the feeding. Begs dawn, lies still and waits. Try not to worry over the way trees fall or the biting salinity of sea. We come from these and are these, and the billions of dust motes that drift through us hold infinite worlds. Come to the edge of the chasm and look at the strata, gorgeous striped reds and browns glinting with barely seen fossils and gems. How can we be here? How can we be here at all? We lie face to face. We each turn away. Storm clouds burst, and the windswept plains are lashed through the day. Acutely we live, ready or not, stepping round vacuums left by the vanished, battling the tide, plunging through time in this slipshod crank of flesh we call home. The circumstance of life, an improbable flower on a crag, rolling on, ready or not, thousands of lives in an old tin tub, your heart a speeding train, whole civilizations bloom in your brain in a flash, so fast it's tender leaves dry and drift. We dream and wake and open our face to the taste of soil and light. Love comes in, and rain and shards and passes through, as you and we and stones and stars and all great loving things. So that's called Grief House. The second one is really, really brief. And I felt like I have to read it after that. I hope I'm not going too long. And I didn't know I was going to cry, so I apologize. Advice for going through hell. This works in a lot of situations, but it was written right after that. 1, keep your hat on. 2, don't put your hand in dark holes. 3, bring lots of carbs. 4, don't forget to drink water. 5, careful of steps, they tend to shift. 6, careful of faces, they tend to shift. 7, watch that lava. 8, refuse unfamiliar beverages. 9, dig a hole in the sand and sit in it. 10, walk like you mean it. 11, if you have to hit something, beat the shit out of the earth. 12, try not to leave too big a carbon footprint while doing that. 13, make 13 your lucky number. 14, your chakras will open again at some point. 15, make every number your lucky number. Anyway, you just really moved me, Jacqueline. I had to pull those out. I hope that wasn't inappropriate. And
Richard, thank you so much for your poems tonight. Really nice reading and strong work tonight. You got me thinking when you mentioned about you weren't trying to be competitive, that we should have a grief off, I think. We just read competitive poems about our sadnesses about things and see who wins.
we're really going to have a big one in a couple of years.
We are. If we're all alive after all we get hit by cars by the end of the night. We'll see. Richard, thank you so much for being here. Round of applause for Richard Loringer. On deck is Ken Scott. Please welcome now Gloria Durgee. Hello, Gloria.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm afraid I'm going to be reading out of the theme. I have 2 poems. The first one is called Energy. Children step to and fro, the dance without direction, Feet shuffle, arms flay, hopping is their time of day. Running here, running there, searching for dragon's hair. It just has to be somewhere. Living long ago and far away, chased by big black birds of prey, hiding beside a gnarled oak, spy a frog from his croak, choosing sticks for a duel to win a place near a ghoul. Girls of spice, boys of tales, whipping the dog until he wails. An old drum becomes a ship where pirates rule and the dragon nips. Darkness falls, children tire, race home to war at the barbecue fire. Plates of slain dragons wrapped in buns, pleasures the bounders, completes the fun. And the second one is called Free to Become. Freedom erases pasts, alive in l'immensité. I dissolved in the sea, woman reborn out of Aphros, cleansed with the pumice of fine sand, tresses washed in fresh water. I know how to strike you with flowers, perfume your day with words of nature and firebirds. Swallow bad dreams, my tongue draws away pain. My eye, eternal ojo de Dios, sees you safe in mind. I conjure you to come into the sunlight of my hair, linger and find warmth and comfort there. At the tree trunk rising, you will burn incense in air, praise sing as talents abound. Again, lost in innocence is found. Purpose is in the viscera, not in the face to see. One alive can open a heart and let syrup run free. Slide in, no sin. Swim in, wash in. Dive deep in the thick, sweet, slow sap from the spring-giving tree. In live stream, not in a dream, I will hear you cry pleasure. That is the treasure. As all women, I am free to be Aphrodite. Thank you.
Well, we thought that's who you were already, Gloria. My gosh. Thank you so much for the respite from grief and your work tonight. It looks like you're in a different room tonight.
Nope, same room, just different screen. Remember the new computer? It's showing you more of my life.
We're taking notes. We're getting a complete picture. There you go. Round of applause for Gloria Durkee. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you.
On deck, Jennifer Elise Wang. Please welcome now Ken Scott. Hi, Ken.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. That was an outstanding feature, Jacqueline Trimble. That was absolutely outstanding, and it was a blessing to hear your words. I can't even begin to comprehend what it must feel like to lose a child or to lose a son. However, I know damn well what it feels like to lose my mother. And I'm going to pick up on the theme of grief, I guess. This is a memorial piece simply entitled For the Passing of My Mother on 27 May 2014. I lost a friend. I lost a dear friend. I lost a truly dear friend, taken away so soon, so soon. I lost one of the best friends I have ever had. I lost a blessed friend who was always in my corner, always covering me in prayers to Jesus, always giving me the best advice about life from many years of true wisdom, always appreciative of every good and genuine thing I did. I lost my mom. Never mind that it may have been her time to go. Never mind the circumstances surrounding her sudden and unexpected departure. Never mind the right or wrong of it. I lost a friend and I had to let go, even though it profoundly pained me to do so. They say that it's best to let the dead rest, and so I had to let go. I would have moved heaven and earth just to have another conversation with her and tell her how much I love her, how immeasurably proud I am to be her son. And though my faith preaches that we will surely see each other again, when the kingdom comes, my sorrowful heart feels no consolation, only the weariness of having to move on in the land of the living, praying that time will heal this deep wound. And yet, calm wind blows. A sense of peace surrounds me in the warmth of the day. So many random, seemingly random signs of comfort and favor surround me, as if to say, my mother is with the Lord in everlasting peace. And her loving presence and genuinely bright smile are still with me. A smile that even now radiates with the glow of this peaceful day. I will always remember my mother. I will always cherish my dear friend. End peace. And I'm going to do another one. Just have to get myself together. After my mom passed, and I went through many years of transformation, I found myself embracing many other paths and lessons of wisdom and understanding in the spiritual. And so I created a chapbook that I'm still trying to sell right now called Toward the Infinitesimal Infinite. And this is one of the pieces out of it. It's an esoteric piece called The Golden Temples of Transformation. The simplicity of reality consists of geometric fractal expression to and from the infinitesimal infinite, with the golden ratio as key and foundation. The intelligent design of reality within the mind of the all contains correspondence between the above and the below, between the within and the without, between the before and the after. With existential cycles, numberless as the sand, singing in perfect balance, structure, order, and harmony. Each and every quantum particle is a cycle of causation, locked in a perpetual vortex according to the pattern of its word. The cycle is the wave that resonates with its word, and the quantum particle is the wave in stasis. The vortex that forms the building blocks of all things. A single grain of sand contains worlds of cycles within worlds, and the sum total of all words within those worlds is the word of that single grain, its own unique sound, its own individual pattern. The eye of your inner mind sees all words, and the womb of your deep one speaks the language of the infinitesimal infinite, the fruit of her womb changing words into other words. According to the pattern of your seed within the womb, the duration of the celestial pregnancy is irrelevant to the womb of your sleeping self who dwells in the ever-present now, the briefest moment that is eternity. It could be 9 months or 9 nanoseconds or instantaneous, according to what you inwardly believe it should be. Nevertheless, the inevitable birth changes words, into other words, realities, into other realities by the pattern of your seed, determined by your lexicon of images within your deep one. It will surely come to pass. This is the Hieros Gamos of sacred alchemy, the mind of the all who created everything, and humanity is the image of the all. We are the golden temples of transformation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Ken, thank you very much. A powerful reading. Sorry for your loss. I don't know when it happened, but whether it was
years ago,
yesterday or years ago, it was still very tangible in your words. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for being so open with us, emotionally, etc. Round of applause for Ken Scott. Thank you, Ken. On deck, Marlena Patrice. Please welcome now Jennifer Elise Wang. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey. So Jacqueline talked about writing a poem instead of arguing with someone on the internet. And there was a period where I did both because I had that energy. And so this is the poem that came out of a really ugly, actually, internet fight that the guy started kind of stalking my friend who was defending me while I was away from it. And so I got really, really angry about the whole thing. And this poem is the comments section. Once a guy, a stranger on the internet, told me that a tampon should be shoved in my mouth, all because I stood up against creepers who assumed the guise of heroes. Funny how cishet men suddenly overcome their irrational fear of menstruation products, open or wrapped, when it can be used as a weapon for the patriarchy. Never mind that we have to pay taxes to take care of our bodies. Only they can talk about our bodies and our periods and how those hormones make us all irrational. That same guy said I must have woken up on the wrong side of the tampon, and in the same thread got grossed out when I said, I free bleed, baby. We can't mention our own blood because women and trans folks aren't real, breathing, bleeding people with emotions and needs. Thus, if I say a tampon in my mouth sounds kinky, the one who suggested it would be grossed out again, because he doesn't want to hear about queer sex and female pleasure. I'm tempted to add that it's kinky, but I'm a dom, so it should go inside his mouth, and I can see him seethe with rage through the wireless network. Instead, I think about how a tampon in my mouth wouldn't even stop the bleeding from all the times I've had to bite my tongue, and still my fingers, by forming a fist, nails digging into my palm. And yet, it makes me feel better to show some teeth when I'm told you should smile more. And my second one is a totally different piece. It's a newer one. So here in Dallas, we've been having these wild winds that with dust coming in from Oklahoma and stuff. And it looks like Las Vegas in Blade Runner 2049. And I've been wanting to write a sci-fi poem. So that kind of inspired this, along with just the image of Ryan Gosling and what they call bisexual lighting. It's like pink and blue. So this is Dreams of Toy Horses after Blade Runner 2049. This world is so bleak. It's no wonder we're told to not think, just do. We don't need ideas when AI can handle that. Sometimes they're better at feelings too. We try not to think about that, not just because of the thing we're not to do, but because that means we're even more replaceable than what our employers reveal when they discard us at any indication of defect or decline, like a weakening body, or thinking, or dreaming about toy horses or unicorns, and add a greater role beyond a cog in the capitalist machine. But unfortunately, that is our destiny, to be parts and numbers, moments lost in time with the memories that were never ours. At least we look good in bisexual lighting.
Outstanding work tonight, Jennifer. You got me wondering if Lynyrd Skynyrd originally wrote the song as free bleed, a phrase I hadn't previously heard before. Had to look it up quickly. Makes sense to me. I don't think I'll be able to hear that song going forward without hearing those words Congratulations on having that power. Dust from Oklahoma sounds terrible. Who wants that? I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't really assessed all the dusts and where it comes from, but it sounds like that's not the one that you want. Thank you so much for being here. As always, really dug both your pieces tonight.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Jennifer, Elise, Wang. On deck is David Hideo Mariyama. Please welcome now Marlena Patrice. Hello, Marlena.
So I've only been here once, and that's not because I didn't like, the one time I came. A whole lot has happened to me, which I'm not going to go into tonight, but I can pretty much say I died last year. And that's a whole other group of poems. And I have had many people die in my life. So not obviously, but I'll say I'm going to take the joy side. So I'm not. Okay, my poem comes from a book called Poems in Praise of Libraries, edited by Hiram Charles Sims. You guys on the West Coast, see, I'm in Phoenix Metro. Maybe you know him, Community Literature Initiative. I'm affiliated with that group. And well, maybe you don't, but they're Cali. And I'm going to read a poem about myself and one of my nephews. I actually have over 20 nieces and nephews, about 25. And I guess God gave me all of them because I'm not a parent of anybody. And this is about a reading readiness program. It's equivalent to 2 poems, so I'm only reading this one. Little Altair and Me at the AJ Public Library. Fun always waiting for us at Fun Van, that Pinal County Reading Readiness Program. It fit us like comfortable Crocs, Altair, my grandnephew, and me. He was the perfect age, 4 going on 5. We soon realized we laugh and smile around books the same way. Story time with Miss B. Altair never seemed to need any accolades. He was ready to give them all away. He was our fun van rock star, answering questions about books while other littles sat on the floor, looking like the overstuffed bears in the picture books, which lined our special room where light always framed us. Every Monday, we returned our books in our designated tote bags in exchange for even more. We had the routines down. After the story, the kids made original artwork, proving that glitter and glue have a purpose. Our sometimes messy cleanups, gathering up the stray clip paper or cotton balls we used to make snow. Where did the plastic scissors go? Apache Junction Public Library, where our kids played with building blocks while we caregivers, parents, grandmas, grand aunts, we grown-ups did adulting classwork stuff, like learning how to show our kids that they are good enough. Good job, the patented phrase these days. Said so in the book we adults read every week for homework. Apache Junction Public Library, where Altair was a court gesture, a cook, a puppeteer, a wizard, a Jedi Knight, flexing his saber light. Most of all, a new reader who sometimes acted like books were part of his comedy act. He'd cover his face with them, put them on his head. Then, after I yanked him off the stage, sat him beside me. We actually read in our favorite library study room. Yes, we read for at least 7 out of 8 weeks, at least 2 to 3 books every Monday together. On our wondrous fun van days before I drove him home again, he learned how to love books. He taught me how to love more than books again. The beginning is sometimes better than the end. The pictures, the sight words, even read one with sign language symbols. Practiced the hand signals. We both smile like Cheshire cats while awkwardly forming the gestures. Gleefully read it again. Our usual reward. Let's go to the nearby playground, right on the other side of AJ. He played. I played. We played. I gently pushed him higher and higher, each time on the swings. Felt higher than anything. Then one day, he climbed up very high without me, while I watched him from below. Very carefully, he declared emphatically, I am king, king of the world. Okay, that's it. I know I got a little mushy part of the time myself.
I know you said it was going to be joy, but then there was some sadness in there too. So
Well, we don't do that anymore, so I'm sad about that because it was fun. It really was. Thank you.
The passage's time is a ridiculous insult to our humanity, I think, to some extent. Marlena, great. I'm glad you're back. Sounds like you went through a lot over the last year. Dying is quite an accomplishment, especially seeing how well you came through it. Being here with us tonight. I hope you come back again.
I'm calling myself 2.0 now.
Very, very good. Marlena Patrice 2.0, give a round of applause for her. Thank you so much for being here. Come again soon. Round of applause there on deck. Heidi Casa, please welcome now David Hideo Mariyama. Hello, David.
Hi. So, a couple of things I noticed, observations. So I've been working with a lot of like the Watts Writers Workshop people, and boy, there are like crazy stories that came out of it. Father Amdi of the Watts Writers of the Watts Prophets told me that Robert Kennedy showed up and was talking with them. And this is right before he went to the hotel. I repeat, before he went to the hotel. And Robert Kennedy had actually promised that he was going to fund more arts funding into South Central. And it was a very, very significant kind of like promise that he was actually making. The fascinating thing, of course, like, if anybody does not know the history of the Watts Writers Workshop, they were shut down by the FBI. They went after them. They actually burned down their space because they had a collaborator with them. And when I talked to Father Amdi and also Ross the Poet of Genke, and we were kind of like looking at it in terms of like like what's going on. Recently, I had talked to Father Amdi. He says like he's worried, about the status of like poets of color and everything. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because it kind of like sort of came up with the Robert Kennedy component, um, which I think is a very significant thing to kind of like think about it in terms of our current times. I was going to read a short poem, but there's like short poems and long poems. I'm a long poem person. I'm going to read the one that Rick um, probably recognized with me. Um, so this is I like catalog poems. Okay. So this is a catalog of artists. Charles Bukowski was known as a hard drinker, and people would attend his readings to see what would happen after a few glasses of wine. Ben Jonson was also known as a hard drinker. He would routinely drink himself into a stupor and wake up the next day to write poems. Percy Shelley took a boat ride to Nowhere Land and never returned. Keats composed his great odes and then died of tuberculosis. Byron would lead a rebellion, but would die in a camp before getting to Greece. Ludwig van Beethoven would become deaf, but his failure to keep his immortal beloved eventually caused a downward spiral to the grave. Amadeus Mozart died while trying to write another piece. No one really knows how. Edgar Allan Poe became a good friend of opiate laudanum, but would kill his telltale heart of depression. Emily Dickinson was so painfully shy that she never left her room but composed poems feverishly. Rimbaud would stop writing poetry because his relationship with Verlaine deteriorated to a gunshot wound, which became a season in hell, so he ran guns in Africa afterwards. Bix Beiderbecke wrote some poems, but drank himself to death by 28. He had an alcoholic seizure from bootleg gin during a time of prohibition. Virginia Woolf stepped into the Ouse River and let it carry her to a room of her own in the sky. Hart Crane jumped off a steamship going back to his New York bridge. John Berryman thought that he had found the gods, but he jumped off a bridge instead. Marilyn Monroe took one too many pills in Los Angeles. DiMaggio would keep flowers on her grave till he died too. Anne Sexton lunched with Maxine Cumin. Afterwards, she walked into a locked garage with a running cart and inhaled. John Coltrane died of liver cancer, but everyone knew it was the years of booze and heroin that did him in. Lady Day would die in a hospital, still craving to ride the heroin horse that bucked her. Lester Young would die in a room overlooking the places he played. He wished he never lost a Lady Day drink. Judy Garland would sing a song about going over the rainbow, but she took too many pills and fell into the mirror glass forever. Sylvia Plath stuck her head into a stove with the help of sleeping pills. 2 weeks afterwards, The Bell Jar was published. Jackson Pollock suffered nervous breakdowns as his alcoholic binges increased, and he would die in a car crash. Randall Jarrell was walking by the hospital where he was recovering from slitting his wrists and got run over by a car. Brian Wilson composed the Pet Sounds album, but he seems to be completely disabled by his demons. Richie Valens and Buddy Holly were ready for the big time, but their plane crashed into the ground before it could start. Janis Joplin put needles in her arm and Southern Comfort in cups and died before she could hear Me and Bobby McGee hit the radio. In 1968, Neil Cassidy, after a night of partying in Mexico, tried to walk to the next village but passed out permanently. Jack Kerouac would join him a year later due to a consistent diet of Thunderbird wine. Allen Ginsberg died at a nice, ripe old age. He too will have a Kaddish written for him. Andy Warhol was never the same after the woman shot him. Jim Morrison died mysteriously in Paris. Nico, semi-member of the Velvet Underground, died of a cerebral hemorrhage after kicking horse. Jimi Hendrix died in London due to an overdose. He suffocated on his vomit after too many barbiturates. John Bonham of Led Zeppelin would die a horrible death, drowning in his vomit after a drinking binge at Jimmy Page's house. Marvin Gaye was becoming consumed by a need to freebase, and his father eventually killed him with a handgun. Karen Carpenter would starve herself to death because she thought she was too fat, and she thought every day was rainy days and Mondays. John Belushi would die in a drug overdose trying to find the Animal House. In 1980, Teresa Hakyun Cha published Dictée. 2 years later, she was murdered in New York. Kurt Cobain matched his head to a shotgun and pulled the trigger. He said he didn't have a gun in a song. He lied. His heart was broken, but no one gave him any glue. Raymond Carver was chronically drunk until 1977, the year he met Tess Gallagher. 10 years later, he died of cancer. Brad Noel took an extended horse ride which stopped his body from functioning. It was less than a sublime death. The Blind Melon singer Shannon Hume would also follow the horse of death to the grave. Hilo Slovak of the Red Hot Chili Peppers was found dead after his final ride on the horse. Lane Staley of the Alice in Chains was found dead in his apartment at the age of 34. He had long battles with heroin too. Amy Winehouse kept singing about not going to rehab, and she drank herself to death. Anthony Bourdain lived with his demons while shooting his Kitchen Confidential shows. He took a no reservation tour by hanging himself after seeing Asia Argento's photos with someone else, not him. Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park would scream, sing in the end about the loss of one more light when Chris Cornell left the Soundgarden. He would later join Cornell's band in the sky. Whitney Houston loved cocaine, and it danced with her heart when taking a bath. Her daughter, Bobby Christina Hussein, died also while in a bathtub too. Nina Simone was placed in an LA psych ward, but she was pulled out by Father Amdi of the Watts Prophets. He would calm her down when she went manic. She would later die in France at the age of 70. Charles Bukowski thought he was going to end up like Berryman or Crane, but a woman named Linda saved his life. He later died at a ripe old age and was last seen in heaven with a bat chasing after critics who hated him. Thank you.
David, thank you. Nice to see you again. I do like that piece a lot. I remember seeing you read it at the festival last year in East LA-ish area that the VCP SoCal Poets put on. And of course, that's what got me to invite you to be our featured reader not too long ago. So thanks for coming back. Good to see you again. Please come again. Nice banana also. We've just got a few more. Heidi Casa, Walker, Valdez, Dig Wayne, and me. Walker, you're on deck. Please welcome now Heidi Casa. Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Rick. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for your readings tonight, and especially the feature. She was wonderful. I think she's gone now, but and Rick, thank you for holding the space for everybody for this. This one is called Baking. I woke aching, suddenly aware that the tender, impressionable parts of me had been pliable. In the time weeds flourished under bare trees, firework thoughts of my vulnerable self cookie dough yielding to your nimble thumb, each indentation cupping the strawberry jam filling, the thumbprints now built into the tender dough, like hail pockmarks on a roof, or the rounded grin of a cathedral statue. Once baked and the jam falls asleep, I'll know by how the sweetness settles, whether the hollows are craters or hammocks. And this one is called Raw Opulence. The rich ask, what's greedier than an artist? Gobbling up all you see, shouldn't I be the same? Someone who notices and loves slight details, how the blue ranges from cobalt to teal, in circular swirls that are also straight brushstrokes in the bowl, each small beauty adding joy, even the chip from many handlings. How much better the pistachios taste, venerated so. How much better the artist lover must be, with each touch a world of sparks, instead of a race to the end, to our end. Each touch recognizing bliss instead of imprisoning it. The rich ask, what's greedier than nature? How it reaches forward and upward, untamed by human-imposed limits, ignoring guidelines and landscaped order, sneaking out after curfew. And what's greedier than a mother whose own umbilical cord extends to source, to one wordless love? The rich ask, can't I be like her, fill my belly with my likeness, emptiness that shares my eyes? Can't I grow past my boundaries? Why can't I see your greedy joy and raise you pain, never calling? Thank you.
I saw how you put a secret tribute to this reading in that poem, Heidi. Very much appreciated your allegiance to us and of course your work in general. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Heidi Casa. On deck, Dig Wayne. Please welcome now Walker Valdez. Hi, Walker.
All right, hey. As always, I'm glad to be here. I discovered this space last week, so I'm glad to be back. All right, I think I'm gonna do two. Kind of saw some of the theme, so I'm picking that vibe for one of them, and then the other one's gonna be a little bit different. All right, but so this one called "This Is a Poem," it's an uplifting poem. This is a poem to uplift and rebuild when your foundation is cracked and you're about to tip over like cedar trees on a windy day. This is a poem to restore your faith that things will get better, regardless of how insurmountable an obstacle that lies ahead. This is a poem that serves as your life jacket in the Colorado Rapids when your kayak just split in two. This is a poem that heals and soothes, that moves you into believing that you will get through this. This is a poem to remind you that depression will sneak up on you, pulling you down like rip currents at the beach, fighting to not drown in plain view. This is a poem that tastes like sopa de pollo on a chilly day, an agua de coco when the sun is smoldering on your neck. This is a poem that nudges you to not give up just yet, because there is so much more to see, live, do. Because so many more times you will fail and succeed, be in love and grief-stricken, and maybe get the chance to just dream. Because this is my poem. This is your poem that lets you know we're all struggling to make sense of this world, just like you. Okay? And then do another one. This one's called Fifth Grade Memories. All right. I remember fifth grade, being 10, what Miss Faulkner looked like. Gray strands of hair, glasses too small for her face, cheeks drooping like coconuts on a palm tree. I remember baggy jeans swimming with oversized rayon shirts, wrapped cassette tapes, and worn-out radio speakers. And I remember an elderly man in dated clothes who visited our classroom once a week, the way his white hair looked dirty, the sound his voice made when he read words that had double meanings, bitterness mixed with the desire to be taken seriously echoed when he he spoke, everyone dreaded his presence. Afterwards, yo, what's your grandfather doing here, man? Reverberated in the classroom like an engine of a junky car while kids howled like hyenas. I acted indifferent until he asked us to write, then read it aloud in front of the whole class as I proceeded to illuminate like algae in a bioluminescent bay. And I felt seen. But his visits didn't last for more than 2 months. On his last day, he grumbled how we were ungrateful, how he didn't have to come. Never thought he had much of an effect on me. I mean, I don't even remember his name, but I kind of wish I would have at least said thank you for introducing me to poetry. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for being here, Walker. Glad you came back 2 weeks in a row. 3 times. Once you come 3 times, you're officially a regular. We're going to print membership cards eventually and send them out to everyone who's a regular. Probably, I don't know. Come back again. Good to hear your work. Round of applause for Walker Valdez. On deck is me to close out the open reading. Please welcome now Dig Wayne. Hello, Dig.
Hello, Rick. Hello, everybody. I got a couple. First one's a high boon. It's called Flecked with Madness. Dipped in insanity. Tender shoots of lunacy cracked the surface, a nurtured recipe for genius. Her bloody nose tripped over the precipice of reality as easy as pie, P-I, staining the crisp hospital whites. Foul play as a way of life, slap and tickle mind games. The world just wasn't round enough for her big butt and Mensa coupons. Her late husband was a one-eyed rodeo clown with an IQ of $160. She called him Einsteiner in his rubber nose and baloney shoes, grinning all over his face. Nightsticks on brain waves quell the smart aleck laughter. Holy Toledo. Thank you. This one's called Square One. I just wrote this today. When all the water turns inside out and the sky pulls the plug, will electricity change its pronoun? Heresy, devotion, inured castigation, praying for soft soap, a fistful of hand gestures, only leading us back to a square hamburger, man. All told, when stiff joints cry baby tears, lapses in memory make room for creation. Boom, boom machines make boom, boom. Rock solid afterbirth. Wizened children have all the answers, but they're dying to get out from under the cyclone. Shine up your step box. Find the horizon over your conscious preview. Dance like a kite with no strings. So what if it's a school night? When they cut you down from the power lines, all the bubbles you ever swallowed will remember your name. Thanks for listening.
Well, you just made bubbles scare the hell out of me, Dig. I used to find such joy in them, but after that last line, I don't know. I'm kind of frightened.
Well, I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm not here to frighten.
Well, I guess nothing a good conversation with a receiving ear won't help with or hurt with. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
What are you trying to say?
I'm not sure. I'm just glad that you stayed up late enough to read your poems. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, there was a moment there when I was, I felt the pillow calling, but I kind of rallied.
We all appreciate it. We all appreciate it. I took a nap an hour ago, just so you know. So it's not really. I listen to everyone's word, just so you know. Words, not just one word from everyone, but all the words.
Good.
Dig, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everybody.
Round of applause for Dig Wayne, Sharon Haibun, and work that he wrote today, and making bubbles into a villain. On which is I don't know what that is. I'm going to read 2 poems to close out the open reading. This first one is, well, they're both kind of new, actually. This first one appears in a new anthology. I don't know if you know the band Bauhaus. kind of the first of the goth bands. They might have invented it, though they hate to be labeled as such, though they really kind of started the whole thing, precursor to Love and Rockets and lots of other music, heavily influenced by Bowie. There's a new anthology out called White on White, edited by Alex Johnson, who's been here before, from Nocturnum Books, and I have a poem in it for Bauhaus. This is called When I First Saw Bauhaus. When I first saw Bauhaus, their singer wasn't with them, and they went by a different name. Human-sized bumblebees rapped on the stage. This really happened. When I saw Bauhaus again, their singer performed the entire first song from backstage. His head rolled out on a TV cart like a movie on an old television in 1981 science class. This was at the Hollywood Palladium, where no one sits down. When I saw them again and again on stages the size of my fingernail to ones that took up all of known space, I thought, this is cool as fuck. I'm not a dark person, but I'm happy to turn out the lights whenever they come to town and let them remind me about whoever is dead. The one-eyed bassist, the guitarist whose hair pokes out the sun, the drummer whose children are taking over the world, the singer whose voice digs all the way to China. When I first saw Bauhaus, I thought, shit, I've got to do this again and again. Posting a link to that new anthology if you want to check it out. A lot of cool people are in it. This next poem is a response to this week's Torah portion. It responds to this line of text. He made the sacrificial altar out of acacia wood. The poem is called I Have Questions. I've read the complete accounting of the making of the tabernacle, and I have questions. It says he made dozens of times, but is suspect as to actually who he was, and when the he's come along, where did he get all the things to make all the things? Slaves bolted out of Egypt with all the purple linen they could carry? Could they have had time to let the dough rise if they weren't so busy grabbing precious fabrics? They were using a lot of acacia wood. Was this history's first deforestation? Was this the world's first tabernacle? I bet I could look that up. Okay, I looked it up. It was not the world's first tabernacle. That's actually all the questions I have. If you have questions you'd like me to pass along in a future poem, please send them. But it may be another 7 years before I get back to this text, if I live that long. I hope to, of course. By then, you may have built your own tabernacle. All the instructions are there for you. If you have enough acacia wood, you can do anything. All right, I think I stumbled over the intended intonation in a lot of that poem, so I'm not even sure what I've said, but please feel free to email me any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them in a separate and private question and answer period. Thank you all for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Jacqueline Allen Trimble for being a fantastic feature. She's on the East Coast and not used to our late night West Coast shenanigans, so she left just a short time ago, but was here for most of it and is incredibly grateful for all the nice things that you said, and I think we made an impression on her just as much as she did on us. There's all the things in the chat room. Tip her if you'd like via Venmo or PayPal. Check out her book. That's the third thing I posted, How to Survive the Apocalypse, at Amazon or bookshop.org. You can also visit her website. Did I forget to paste that in there? It is quick cutting and pasting. There it is. Visit Jacqueline on the web at JacquelineAllenTrimble.com. Of course, you can download her broadside at the Cobalt Poets website. If you're new here, here's all the amazing things you can do on that website. 1, see all the broadsides we've ever published. Jacqueline's was number 653. You can see the calendar of who's coming up in upcoming weeks. For example, next week here in this space, we will hear from Ted Burke, So look forward to that next week. You can also get on our email list if you click on email list, and you'll get an email every Sunday morning and Tuesday as well. So there you go. That's everything. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Really fantastic night. I've clicked all on the ask all to unmute buttons, so let what happen happen.
I'm still interested in the intended intonation that you spoke of. Something about that. Those two words together really kind of captured me. The intended intonation. It's got a nice.
Thanks.
Well, anybody into it, we're supposed to still be boycotting Amazon. I'm saying we, because I am.
Oh shit! I just bought shit from them today. Damn it! I'm sorry.
I can't live without Amazon.
No, it's a group thing.
No, but I feel you. I know where you're coming from. I'm with you on this. I'm bummed.
Yeah, I've been doing it. I did go on there in the last week looking for two things and then bought them elsewhere. Like from the company that they're listed as. And you know what? The one of them, there was no shipping. I was like, okay.
Well, all of us do Amazon, but I said, well, I'm gonna do it.
Well, thanks for the reminder.
Good idea. I follow all that stuff.
And Nestle's is coming up, but I'm like, I don't really, unless you go into the frozen area,
On Instagram today, I saw someone listed all the companies that Nestle owns, and there were a surprising number.
Okay.
All these
can't live without the quick.
Gotta have the quick, man.
You gotta have the quick. I mean, come on, Nestle.
Quick.
Putting down my quick. Are you kidding?
I
still remember that rabbit on the commercials, Dig, when we were kids. Remember that rabbit for the Nesquik? Yeah.
I'm not sure. Probably. It doesn't come to mind, but I'm sure I saw it.
Have to learn how to make your own.
I quit using speed years ago.
Well, I'm glad I came back. See, I actually know, I don't know her, but she's friends with an ASU professor out here. So
you're talking about Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Yeah, damn, she read well.
So are you comfortable in giving us just a little bit of a summary about how you almost lost your life last year?
Oh, see. Well, everybody's not here, but okay, if you want to know, I'll make it brief. It happened in September. I was diagnosed. I'm not, going into all that, but let us say I got a bad diagnosis, and I was, adjusting. But then I have an older sister who lives here, and she got the dynamite idea of throwing me in the hospital, and said I was crazy, that that I was trying to kill myself and harm other people, and all of that came out of nowhere. I had, well, we'll say I had to adjust, at least give me that. And I had some friends who had died. Well, a cousin and a lady 90 plus years old. Prior to that, as I said, give me time to breathe. And as I said, my sister pretty much hates me because she visited me once in 21 days. What do you think about that?
Wow.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, she did it out of love. So I'm not gonna, that's a whole book right there. But anyway.
I could imagine.
I'm doing okay. I'm a widow. My parents are dead. So it's really, as I said, I have all these nieces and nephews, but I'm close to only some of them. And some of them don't even live here. Like some live in Africa. They're scattered. And people are saying, be careful because, maybe she's manipulating. All of these kids are, well, not all of them, but half of them are grown. Be careful who you trust because she might be trying to put me back in there. although she isn't my legal guardian. But out here, it's weird. They allow you to write up a document and they can throw you in a psych ward.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's how it is out here. You're like, how the hell does
Where do you live?
I'm in Phoenix.
Well,
Well,
Arizona. Okay.
I'm in Phoenix Metro.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah. So it's pretty widespread.
Yeah.
I'm an hour from the actual Phoenix. But I'm not scared, but we felt she, was she trying to get my house? It was something weird in there. Yeah. Be careful.
Be careful. Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay for now. But they did rough me up in there, so I might be able to do a malpractice, but that's expensive.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, sorry for oversharing.
No, not at all.
Yes, me.
Write lots of poetry.
Yeah, your poetry's great. Keep writing.
Thank you. Well, I'm not trying to write about that right now. Like the book I'm working on now is a love poems book.
Yeah, that's great. It doesn't have to be about that,
Romance.
but we'll get you out of the hole,
Right. I'm all right now. And I do have a published book if you want to go buy it. It mentions about some of the dead people, but I feel like it's an uplifting book. And I finished, fortunately, before any of that happened. If she could have gotten there and fucked that up, she would have. So I finished my book and I had it a virtual release in May. So, God at least protected me long enough to get my book out. And I was
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I was able to, try sell it somewhere. I had pre-orders, and that was the group I was talking about, Community Literature Initiative. But the group connected with it. You familiar?
No, I'm saying good night, everyone.
World Stage Press is the one that